Hello, everyone. My name is Seth. Today, we have to talk about Netflix buying Warner Brothers. So, you've probably heard by now, but there's been this massive deal where Netflix has bought Warner Brothers. That is incredibly massive. It's a huge shakeup in the film industry. And this has a chance to affect movies and TV for years to come. And of course, as you may already know, Warner Brothers was looking to sell. Paramount was another company that was very much so looking forward to buying it. But Netflix has won the bidding war with Netflix has won the bidding war with an offer of 82.7 billion, that's billion with a B, billion dollars. And so before we get into what all of that means, go ahead and like the video, hit subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video. We're getting closer and closer to 400 subscribers. So if you are new here, please consider subscribing. It would absolutely make my day. But if you're not new here, it would also make my day if you would share this video around within your friends or family. It could really help the channel grow. And also, this video is sponsored by Dubby. Dubby is an energy drink that is loaded with vitamins, and it's pretty much for anyone who wants a boost of energy to help focus without any jitters or a crash. I'm somebody who sometimes has a lot of really early mornings or some late nights working on videos or preparing for a live broadcast. So having a little bit of extra energy, a little bit of focus really helps. But I think W works for me. I've tried it. W is sugar-free, 0 calorie, and has no artificial colors, which is great. If you've recognized from my past videos, I've actually lost quite a bit of weight over the last year or so. So having something that's 0 calories, 0 sugar is really a plus for me. I have the blue raspberry, purple grape flavor, and that tastes really good. You just add a scoop into about 8 ounces of water. Some other energy drinks can kind of taste like battery acid, but this actually has a good taste. And for me, it works. I did not get jittery like I did with some others. It was just enough to help me focus on like editing or focus on like multiple cameras on a live broadcast. They have a bunch of different flavors, so if you want to try it for yourself, I actually have a code for you. Use code CinemaSeth at checkout to get 10% off your order. Now on with the video. First off, I do kind of want to just put my thoughts out there. First and foremost, I think I would rather have Warner Brothers sold to a different company. I don't necessarily know if Paramount was the right fit, but I would have rather it not be Netflix, mostly because on a lot of things surrounding the realm of film, I disagree a lot with the Netflix CEO, Ted Sarandos. I actually have a video probably from about a year-ish ago where I reacted to some of the comments he made. I'm going to have that in the link in the description. I'm going to have that in the description below so you can go ahead and check that video out after you watch this one. But this whole thing just came down to the fact that Netflix outbid everybody else. They just had the biggest bid of anyone. And honestly, this was the biggest deal in Hollywood history. This is bigger than the Disney and Fox deal. The Disney and Fox deal, I believe, was around 71 billion-ish, around there. So this is 82.7 billion. And so this whole thing will definitely still take a while to complete. So you don't have to worry about anything. There's not going to be any major changes happening tomorrow or in the next week or in the next month. For everything to actually come to completion, if everything goes smoothly, which there's a decent chance that it will not go smoothly, this will probably take about a year to actually finish and finalize everything. Netflix honestly is just interested in the theatrical television side of Warner Brothers. So that is like the Warner Brothers films and then like HBO Max. And so they are planning to kind of sell off some of the other stuff like Discovery. They even mentioned in their press release, they expect a lot of the selling off of the parts that they don't want to be completed around the third quarter of 2026. And so that would put you probably around the June, July, August portion of the year next year. And they could even deal with some government regulations. This is going to have to go through the government because this is such a big deal. You know, monopolies are a thing. That's the one thing that the government is supposed to make sure doesn't happen, is monopolies forming. So there is a chance that this deal could see some turbulence from the government regulation side of things. I'm not necessarily saying that's going to happen. I know nothing about law. I am not a lawyer. I am a film fan. So I'm speaking of this from what I know about film and film companies, some big deals like this previously in Hollywood. But what I can say is, for now, Warner Brothers will stay intact. That's what they have said that they plan to do with Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers will continue to put out theatrical films. We will still have HBO Max. And as soon as the whole thing is complete, again, they said that their plan is to have HBO Max be their own independent streaming service. As of right now, it's not supposed to be absorbed into Netflix. It's still supposed to be independent. One other thing that is a big deal, they said that they anticipate the creative executives there at Warner Brothers to stick around. That includes James Gunn with DC, and that also includes Michael DeLuca and Pam Abdy. Apparently, it is not a guarantee for the CEO of Warner Brothers, David Zaslav, to stay on. At this moment, there's not really any information around that. They might give him like a nice package just to kind of like go off and just do whatever for the rest of his life. But there's also a chance that he could still stick around as one of the heads of Warner Brothers, just under the Netflix division. So even though everything is going to kind of go business as usual for at least the next year, they have said that they plan to keep the Warner Brothers films theatrical. They plan to keep Warner Brothers intact, and that division will still be putting out theatrically released films. That was their pitch, and that was their commitment. Now, once the deal is done, there's nothing really stopping them from going back on their commitment and doing whatever they want. And I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. Warner Brothers could very well just continue to run kind of just as they have been, just under Netflix. But I mean, I'm not a big Ted Sarandos fan. I don't necessarily trust the guy. So I could potentially see this going poorly. One of the issues I could potentially see with this is that as a whole, Netflix is more data-driven. Netflix doesn't necessarily think, how can we get the best films, the best shows, the best content with the best directors or the best creatives? They think more about content that has to hit certain marks. It's just because they're so data-driven. They have a philosophy for what to make and how to make those things on a lot of the projects they decide to create, and all of that is based on analytics. They are driven more by analytics and data, not necessarily by art. And I don't think that Netflix philosophy, that data-driven philosophy, gives much room for innovation. A lot of that data, a lot of the analytics is based on stuff that we've already seen. They deliver products to get their analytics to look nice and to drive in subscribers. And the thing about movies is, yes, absolutely you want to say it's just an art form. Movies are art, and they are, but there is still a shareholder analytic data side of things to film, but that's not the only thing. Films are so interesting because it's really the molding, the meshing of both of those things together, the art and the data together. But when I look at Netflix, it's like pretty much all data and analytics, not necessarily too much art. I think it should be a little bit more 50-50. And so honestly, I don't think Netflix would have greenlit something like Star Wars. I don't think that Netflix would have necessarily greenlit something like Halloween or even something like Sinners recently. I think there's a lot of films that you love that if they were to come up to Netflix, they probably wouldn't have greenlighted them, before they were a thing. Films that take risks aren't necessarily Netflix's bread and butter, if you know what I mean. And so if that's what we're going to end up getting, I don't think that's good for movies in general. But if Netflix does not interfere too much and they just kind of let Warner Brothers continue to do their thing with their creatives, and we can still get some of the good stuff that Warner Brothers has been putting out theatrically, and also some of the prestige television of HBO Max. So like I already mentioned, Netflix did come out and say that they wanted to buy Warner Brothers because they wanted to get into the theatrical game. They want to let them continue to run and operate as the film studio that they have been. And that is the best case scenario in this situation. Netflix can own Warner Brothers, but let them do their own thing. Give them a budget, maybe give them a little bit of oversight, but let the creatives, let the executives do their thing. Just let them cook, let them do what they've been doing. And of course, they said that's what they're going to do. But like I've mentioned before, you can understand my skepticism when it involves Ted Sarandos. Again, I don't like his comments around theaters and the theatrical release window. I just don't like that. You could, again, link in the description for that other video where I responded to some of his comments. But right now, he does say that they plan for the Netflix films to still have the short theatrical window. Just let them still be the same, and then let the Warner Brothers movies still be the same, have that same kind of theatrical window. But absolute worst case scenario would be if they just kind of say, you know what, we change our minds. We're going to treat all of Warner Brothers films like we treat Netflix films, with either incredibly short theatrical windows or no theatrical windows at all. So kind of like some other ways I think that this whole thing could go terribly wrong is if they don't end up keeping HBO Max and Netflix separate. If they just end up taking HBO Max and just absorbing it into Netflix, which they said they're not going to do, but we'll see what happens. That's a disaster. I mean, that's just like kind of goodbye to a name that has become synonymous with prestige television. I mean, who's to say that in 3 or 4 years, they're not kind of pressed and they go back into their more data-driven mentality and they just say, well, maybe we can just absorb everything that's HBO Max, just kind of do away with that, absorb everything into Netflix, and everything's just Netflix now. That's not to say that Netflix doesn't have any good shows. When they actually let the creators cook, like the Duffer Brothers with Stranger Things or something like House of Cards, they can have some really good television. But I think it's when they get way too data-driven, which unfortunately is, I think, a lot of their TV and movies on the platform, that's when you get into trouble. I hope I'm wrong, but if I'm making a prediction, I just don't see them keeping HBO Max separate forever. I think that temptation to look at HBO Max and say, hey, you know what? All of this stuff, that could be Netflix. That could be Netflix originals. All of that prestige TV you love, hey, it's just Netflix now. And that would be a mistake, because if you dissolve the HBO name, that's just become synonymous with prestige TV at this point. You hear an HBO show, you think it's going to be quality. And I think it would be an absolute shame and kind of a disaster to do away with that. Now, again, I'm going to reiterate just so I'm not just... Again, I'm going to reiterate, I'm not saying that this is what's going to happen. They have said it's not going to, but I'm just saying, with how Netflix has run things before, I could see that as a potential. Through all of this, I just really hope that Netflix does what they say they're going to and give Warner Brothers autonomy. Let them do their thing. Let them do what they do best and still produce quality TV and theatrical films. I think that's what's best for everybody involved: Warner Brothers, Netflix, movie theaters, movie fans. But we'll see if Netflix ends up sticking to what they've said. What if they do shrink that Warner Brothers theatrical windows to either non-existent or incredibly short? That's a disaster. I mean, it has even been proven that movies with an actual legit theatrical window perform better on streaming? What if the creators at Warner Brothers aren't actually given space to lead? What if they're eventually kind of put in chains, and then some guys at Netflix end up kind of making a committee, maybe involving some of the executives at Warner Brothers, but it kind of turns into film by committee, and that's not good for anybody. The creatives at Warner Brothers have been doing a really good job. They just set a record for the most consecutive films released by a studio that opened up to $40 million or more. So if Netflix starts interfering in the creative process, that can be bad for the films. So all of these concerns that I have brought up, it's something that I could potentially see Netflix doing, but to, again, stay completely clear, this is something that they have not said that they're doing. They have indeed said that they plan to keep things going as normal. The creatives are still supposed to be in control there whenever it is brought over under Netflix. But I know I've said it a couple times, I just don't trust Ted Sarandos, really. Maybe he will be smart, keep to his word, keep to what he has said, let Warner Brothers just be a theatrical arm to Netflix, let them just continue doing what they're doing. If Netflix sticks to their word, then I think that this will end up being okay. But I definitely can see this deal going bad in more than a couple of ways. I hope for the best. I hope for good creative films led by visionary executives, producers, and directors. But I definitely think it'll be interesting to see where all of this goes. But that's all I got on the Netflix and Warner Brothers deal. What do you think of this deal? Let me know in the comments section down below. Do you think this is going to be an absolute disaster? Do you think Netflix is going to completely go back on their word? I want to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like this video, hit subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video. Don't forget you can get 10% off your W order using the link in the description. And you can follow me pretty much anywhere and you can follow me on social media pretty much anywhere at CinemaSeth, and I'll see you next time.